Is
Look, at Monday Morning Alaska, we're giving you kind of a special update on what we are dealing with when it comes to the remnants of what was former Typhoon Halong. We do have Chief Meteorologist Melissa Fry out west in Nome, who has been tracking those conditions as well. Before we get to her, we are going to kind of break down what we are seeing with at least some of those impacts this morning across portions of Alaska. Now, when it comes to that flooding and erosion, this is some of the impacts that we have been seeing. This is a photo coming in from Nelson Jasper out towards Akiak. That's upriver from Akiak. You can see that erosion that has been taking place, the force and the power of those flood waters and waves. You can see knocking away some of that earth, that boat kind of hanging off of that, what's left of that earth out towards Akiak. And then towards Eek, we've seen some of those roads flooded. This is a photo courtesy of Sam Carter. We've seen numerous storm reports coming in from across western Alaska, where we've seen winds in excess of 70 miles per hour. We've got seeing some reports out towards Bethel that even though the storm has passed, some transformers continue to blow, leading to some additional power outages. But again, we do have Chief Meteorologist Melissa Fry, who is out at Nome this morning. We've got several impacts that we have been dealing with for areas out west. And Melissa, you were battling those winds, the sand pelting you in the face. Walk us through what you experienced with the storm system.
Yeah, so once we got here Saturday night, it was almost a ghost town. It was really quiet. We thought we would get here and see people, prepping for the storm, but they had already done that. Folks here in Nome, they lived through Mirbach 3 years ago, and they were anticipating a similar event. So a lot of homes and businesses right there on Front Street did board up, and things were just very quiet. Even at the stores, people we heard had gone through earlier in the day and got what they needed to kind of survive the night. And I don't think many people slept that night, anticipating the storm coming in. Now, once we got into bed, it was not long before we started hearing the rain just pounding on the windows between about 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. Hard to sleep. Those windows were just banging in the wind. And that was the first round. That's when I knew those outer bands of the former Typhoon Halong had reached us here all across Norton Sound. So seen that initial round of wind and rain. And then we got into the center of the storm, which I have to tell you, Aaron, was kind of eerie but beautiful in a strange way. We were sitting in the center of the storm and there was blue sky and it was calm. But of course, as a meteorologist, we've been tracking this. I knew there was a lot more coming. And sure enough, a couple hours later, we saw the second side of it, the back side of that storm that pushed through and did bring in that more extreme wind. So wind gusts here in Nome were between 50 and 60 miles per hour. And yeah, sand was pelting our face. It was hard to stand up. It was difficult, but that's not too uncommon for Nome. I mean, a more significant fall storm for them. Unfortunately, we did not get the flooding or those real extreme hurricane force winds here. But while we were, sort of experiencing those conditions in Nome, really everyone's hearts and thoughts were with everyone down in the YK Delta region as we were just getting in reports very quickly of a dire situation there. And then once we moved Sunday night, we started getting reports of people missing there in Kipnuk and then also in Quigilingok, and just hearing that water rising so quickly, again, literally floating homes out from their foundations. And people started messaging me saying, hey, we need help here. We are floating downriver. We don't know where we're going or what we're doing. Just such a scary situation for those folks, again, in the YK Delta region. Everywhere from Bethel to the coast was seeing high water, inland locations that you just don't expect to experience coastal flooding because they're not on the coast, but upriver, and certainly seeing that water pushing in. So we are, Aaron, still waiting for word for at least 3 people that are unaccounted for there in Quig. There are mixed reports reports from folks down in Kipnuk. Some people saying everyone's accounted for, other people saying we're not quite sure yet. So we're still waiting on that information this morning. We have talked with the National Guard, and we have talked with DPS here in Alaska, the state. A lot of resources. Coast Guard, National Guard is there in those villages. They did a mini rescue operations yesterday, medevac people into Bethel who needed medical attention. So we're just getting that information in and trying to hear more about, again, if anyone is still missing, if everyone is accounted for. But just showing you here the Bering Sea. It is really beautiful here in Nome this morning. As the skies have cleared and we are seeing the sun coming up, and the Bering Sea here just so calm across Norton Sound. What a contrast to even late last night. We had just huge white caps about as far as you could see. And we did get about a 5-foot storm surge pushing in here overnight, but no reports of flooding. They did have a few power outages here across Norton Sound, dealing with some high water in some spots. But they do still have plywood up on the buildings, Aaron, this morning, so we'll see if those come down. I bet people did sleep a lot better last night now that the storm has pushed to the north. We're just thinking of all those folks down south. Such a scary situation, Aaron. I just can't imagine you're in your home and you wake up and you're floating. I mean, we hear about high water inside homes and homes coming down, but you don't hear about entire homes floated off from their foundations very often. So just a scary situation. We're also hearing there's still hundreds of people in their shelters. So tough night for those folks.
Yeah, and I know you spoke to one of those residents who was impacted, who was actually floating, found floating downriver when she woke up. Can you kind of walk us through that before we kind of give a breakdown of what we're seeing with the remnants of this impacts?
Yeah, so she messaged me on Facebook and said, we need help. She was one of those folks asking for help. And so we talked to the National Guard and we said, hey, there's people that are floating downriver. Are you sending any resources down here? And they knew about the situation. They were sending down those helicopters to rescue folks. But I talked to her while her home was floating downriver, and I just almost couldn't believe it. At first, I was just, a little confused, trying to understand the situation. But she described it as feeling like she was on a boat. She was there with her 2 daughters. They were doing their best to stay calm and to stay patient. And her girls were in remarkably well spirits for the situation that they were enduring. And so she didn't want to open her door. Of course, there's water out there. There's open, river, ocean water pushing in. So she was just trying to be patient and wait. Now, what was interesting is her mom and her sister lived nearby, and that's how she knew she was floating downriver, because her sister called her and said, hey, sis, your house is floating right now, and so is ours. They were kind of in tandem, floating down the river together. So they were documenting each other's experiences. Now, I have not heard from the Paul family yet this morning. Last night they lost power, didn't have access to cell phones and communication. So I've been checking in with some folks to find out, were they okay? Did they get rescued? Really hoping, of course, that they were one of the folks that got rescued there last night. But we haven't heard yet. So we will hopefully get in touch with them later today. And we've heard, again, similar stories in other villages. More than a dozen people there in Kipnuk and then also in Kwigillingok had a similar situation where their homes were flooded off from their foundations. Those folks needed rescuing. So, just incredible. And, this recovery, it's going to be months, if not years, before these villages get any sort of normalcy back, just because of the amount of water that tore through their town. And it'll be interesting to see how many homes were destroyed there.
And that's Chief Meteorologist Melissa Fry, who has been live in Nome through the weekend, continuing to track some of that progress from the impacts of that storm as residents wake up and recover from that storm. You might want to get inside. It looks a little cold out there. We do have some cooler air that's filtering on the backside.
A little cold. Aaron, I just want to say one other thing. I just want to say thank you, first of all, to everyone who has shared their stories, their pictures, their videos. We've heard from dozens of people, and keep those coming. We want to make sure that your stories are reported on and documented. You can continue sending me those messages. We'll continue to, reach out and find out more information from National Guard, from Coast Guard, and from the state on the recovery efforts there. But just thinking of you guys down there, if anyone's watching from Kipnuk or Kwigillingok, we hope that you are safe now and things get back to normal soon.
Thanks, Melissa. Chief Meteorologist Melissa Fry, who again is live in Nome. And we will continue to follow the impacts from this storm system. We are going to look at these storm reports coming in from western Alaska. You can see numerous locations where we have seen many areas where we've seen hurricane force winds. We've seen floodwaters that have been impacting many areas out west. And when it comes to those floodwaters, some of the greatest areas of concern were out towards areas of southwest Alaska through the YK Delta out towards the Kuskokwim Delta coastline, where we did see some record-breaking flooding. Now, those coastal flood warnings, they have been trimmed back for many areas, particularly for locations along and south of the Seward Peninsula. So those numbers that you're seeing, those no longer are in effect, but you can see out towards Kotzebue, Point Hope, Utqiagvik, where we are still seeing that coastal flood warning. Those storm surges still expected to be about 1 to 5 feet above the normal high tide line, which isn't going to be as drastic as what we did see with that storm system that we did see impact areas of western Alaska last week. I want to bring your attention to the Kipnuk, where we did see that record-breaking flooding through the weekend. Now, that tidal gauge out towards Kipnuk topped out at 14.52 feet. That is above the record set back in November of 2000 when it topped out at 13 feet. This did occur again through the weekend hours, and when it comes to that flooding that we did see for areas of southwest Alaska, particularly out towards Kipnuk as well as Kwagilingok, 13.1 feet, I should say. That is where the freshwater source for Kipnuk begins to flood when it comes to those flood waters. So these are some of the flood impacts you can see. And again, 14.52 feet, that was where those water levels did peak at. But you can see around 12.5 feet, water reaches the Washiteria fuel tank. 13.1 feet, water reaches the freshwater lagoon located west of the south end of the airstrip. This lagoon is Kipnuk's primary freshwater source. And then 14 feet, the water reaches the wastewater lagoon, with additional several buildings beginning to receive water of less than 1 foot. So that is what we did see with that Kipnuk tidal gauge. We also saw some of that flooding out towards Kwagilingok, which did see some record-breaking flooding as well. Additional concerns that we did see was areas of the Norton.
The troopers have evacuated people. I don't know how many.
For those areas,
I don't know. I think there's 300 people in Quick in the shelter in Quick, but they're overwhelming the sewer facilities. So that's going to become a real mess real soon, and we got to get them out of there. So I don't know how many they're moving. All I know the National Armory in Bethel can only hold a maximum.
That we are expecting to see. That will continue to remain with us throughout the day. Notice last week those water levels peaked at over 6.5 feet. Today, somewhere between 11 a.m. and about 1 p.m., we'll see those water levels top out at about 3.38 feet. So Kotzebue Sound will see the potential for some minor flooding as this storm system continues to build into the northeast. And the good news is those winds, they are continuing to diminish for areas of western Alaska as the storm system quickly exits off towards the northeast, and that is leading to those winds continuing to diminish for many areas. Now, with that said, as this storm system kind of fizzles out, we are watching a third storm that's going to build into the state. This one is going to be weaker, and I'm going to say that again, this one is going to be weaker than the previous two storm systems that we did see. With that said, it will bring some widespread rain and snow to the state, and we'll also be seeing the potential for some breezy conditions pushing through areas of southwest Alaska. We could see that potential for winds of 20 to 40 miles per hour by midweek. So we'll be watching for that. It will bring some additional rain in the forecast, which could be heavy at times. Of course, that heaviest rainfall looks to really build into areas of the Aleutians. Well, we could also see some rough seas for locations south of the central and eastern Aleutians. This will bring that potential that we could see some rough seas of about 20 to 30 feet. So we'll be watching for that as that storm system moves inland. You can see building into southwest Alaska as we welcome in the middle of this week with more rain expected for south central. And you can see those wave heights with that incoming storm, particularly out towards locations south of the central and eastern Aleutians. Again, those waves could peak over 20 to 25 feet. Not expecting any flooding concerns for southwest Alaska. So that is the good news for you there. Here across south central, though, we are going to continue to hold on to some of that widespread rain in the forecast. Temperatures will continue for the most part to stay fairly warm the next couple of days, seasonal as we continue to top out in the upper 40s to near 50 degrees. But by week's end, we are going to see those temperatures steadily cool down, dropping down into the lower 40s. So that is what we are going to be watching across the state as we welcome in the coming days. Now, coming up in the next few minutes as we get this meeting, we are going to join the areas out towards the Yukon Delta who are in a meeting right now talking about the impacts and what they're going to be dealing with when it comes to the recovery and cleanup efforts with the storm system. We'll get that up for you in a moment. But before we do, we'll just give you another live look at what we're dealing with that 7-day forecast. Again, we are expected to see how those rain showers continue to build it back in across South Central. Today's going to be a wet day where we could see up to a ½ an inch of that rain accumulation sticking around for inland areas of South Central. So be prepared for those wetter conditions. Again, if you live out west, we're not going to see any significant impacts today. Those conditions will continue to gradually diminish. We will still favor some gusty conditions along the slope. Again, Utqiagvik could see a storm surge of about 1 to 2 feet above the normal high tide line, but thankfully we are seeing this storm system quickly winding down as it builds to the northeast into the Beaufort Sea coast and then out towards northern parts of Canada as we welcome in the coming days. But still trying to get this meeting up. You can see by week's end, we are going to see those temperatures cooling off. We are actually going to see the first potential freeze of the season as we welcome in the weekend. Should that occur this weekend, it will be the second latest on record for Anchorage. So that's one thing we are watching in terms of the record levels. We've got this meeting up now. We're going to take you to that live meeting out towards the YK Delta. Looks like they haven't quite started yet, so we are just going to continue to wait for for more people to come into this meeting before it does start. If anyone has any questions, just ask them in the Facebook Live, and I will get to them before we pull up that meeting until we start hearing people talking so we can give you more of that information that they will be talking about for today. If we can get our technology to work and pull up this computer, give me a second. Technology is failing us today. There it is.
All right. Good morning, everyone.
Looks like we now have the meetings, and we are going to shift to that, and then we will have those questions coming in after this meeting if we have time for
unless you are giving a report for your community. We ask that any media on the line, please do not record this conversation. Today, we're going to try to streamline this a bit. We have requests for information on needs. What are the needs in the community? So if when you
We're going to go ahead and jump out of that meeting. We'll listen to it and bring you that information later in some of our later newscasts. But if anyone has any questions before we go and get ready for our noon show, just please ask them and we'll get to them. We're still seeing some of those impacts for areas out west. Of course, some of the greatest flooding potential has been out towards Kipnuk as well as Quagilingok. As you did hear from Chief Meteorologist Melissa Fry earlier, we did see several of those storm impacts coming in from the YK Delta region, where we are seeing some of those storm reports continuing to funnel in across western Alaska. You can go to our website at alaskasnewssource.com. You can find out more of that information. We have a live blog that's continuing to run with more information that we're updating throughout the day. Again, if you are just now joining us, we are seeing the greatest impacts from this storm system. That is winding down. Still seeing the potential that we could hold on to some of that flooding out towards areas of northwest Alaska, although storm surge potential will be about 1 to 5 feet above the normal high tide line. For some areas, I think it'll be a lot lower than that as the storm system quickly winds down. But certainly keep those in your thoughts. You want to certainly support those if you can who are greatly affected by this storm system through areas of western and southwest Alaska. Of course, we'll continue to keep you updated right here on the digital desk, on our website, and online, as well as on broadcast. For now, make sure you have a great Monday, as well as continue to send us in some of those photos that we are seeing from across the state when it comes to that damage, because you, the viewers, certainly are the first line when it comes to feeding us some of that information when it comes for areas from the bush. But make sure you have a great Monday. Keep in touch with those that that are within the path of these impacts of that storm, and we continue to watch the first potential freeze here in South Central as we welcome in the weekend.